Hello everyone, and welcome to our HEIP event on how can I help my university or higher education institution become a leader in sustainability. For those who don't know yet, HEIP stands for Higher Education Institution Politics, but I'm sure you'll become very familiar with this term tonight. We're so grateful and happy about every participant that is here with us. Our goal is that you'll leave this event inspired and motivated, and that will have you provided with some useful tools to bring more sustainability to your own HEI. We especially want to thank our panelists who took the free time to share their knowledge and experience with us. And to give you a little more background to the event, it's been organized by Muget and me in the name of the SWS, the Sustainability Week Switzerland, and the VSN, which is short for the Swiss Association of Student Organizations for Sustainability. I'm in the SWS Core Team and the VSN board, and Muget is working for the HEIP department of the VSN. And this panel is part of the yearly Sustainability Weeks that are organized by the SWS. And one last thing from my side, we'd like to encourage you to turn on your cameras and really be here with us, because we consider each and every one of you a valuable part of the event. So it would be nice to see your faces. And now I'd like to quickly hand over to Muget before we're getting started with the panel.
Thank you, Christina, for that welcome. Hi, everyone from my side as well. I wanted to quickly say we'll be doing an evaluation before the event and one afterwards to see kind of what your background knowledge is and if you learn anything during the event, as well as any kind of interests that you might have so that we can organize future events and tailor them to your needs. Without further ado from our side, I'd like to introduce Nino Wilkins, our moderator. He's a student at the University of Fribourg, and he served as the co-president of VSS UNES, the Tertiary Student Union, and currently he is serving as the co-president of the Bildungskoalition in Switzerland, which is a coalition of NGOs who focus on education for sustainable development. We are so grateful for your help, Nino, with everything, and I look forward to your moderation after this very quick poll. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Muget. I filled out the poll. I think most of you, there's short questions, maybe even slightly leading questions, but it will be interesting at some point if we then I can show the results of what the people believe. Welcome to everyone. My name is Nino Wilkins. I'm very happy to be able to organize this panel and this discussion on how everything will be going today. A great thanks, first of all, to Muget and Christina who set this whole thing up, and a big thanks to your inputs and the points to participate more actively and not just consume and listen if you want to. Before we get into that, a quick show on how this whole panel discussion will go forth. So we're going to do a quick introduction of the people that are on the panel so that you know actually who these people are that are talking and why we specifically chose these people also to share their voice. Then we will have
Okay, I see everyone else moving, so I was worried for a minute it was my internet. Maybe I'll quickly text Nino and ask him if he's okay. He did organize 2 computers in case this would happen. So please stand by during these technical difficulties. Sorry. Okay, maybe what I'll quickly do is say if we can wait for Nino to reorganize his internet, maybe we can start with the panelists introducing themselves. So I'll go on to the next slide so that we can see who's coming first. Maybe Marie-Claire, would you be happy to say a few words about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I was equally worried that it's my internet because I'm currently located in Ghana where the internet is not so strong. But yeah, my name is Graf. I am currently the president of the VSN and also co-founded the Sustainability Week Switzerland, have been part of the Zurich team for very long, and I'm now in an advising role to the Sustainability Week, and also have been, I see Nino is back, just finishing my point. Have been studying at ETH Zurich and the University of Zurich, environmental and political science. I'm doing now my master's in the UK, home-based due to the coronavirus, in political science and environmental science, and working in the field of climate politics. And now handing over to Nino, I assume.
Thank you very much, Marie-Claire, for jumping in. That's why I had backup solutions ready. I do not know what just happened. But anyways, I am back. Welcome, everybody, again. So Marie-Claire just introduced herself. Marie-Claire, in addition, of course, that this has been a very valuable student voice in the field of sustainability, for many different aspects in her role as president of the VSN and in many other aspects. So if you work in the field of sustainability, even outside of higher education institutions, there's a pretty good chance you've crossed paths with Marie-Claire at one point or the other. The next person I would like to have them present themselves is Gaia di Salvo. She's a student at the University of Zurich, and she is in charge of she's the co-project leader of the Competence Centre for Student Engagement. Gaia, I will let you present yourself and then also the Competence Centre.
Thank you very much, Nino, and thank you very much, Christina and Muget, for inviting me to this podium discussion. As Nino mentioned, I am the co-project lead of the National Competence Centre for Student Engagement for Sustainable Development, which I will present in a bit. But a little bit more about myself. Apart from working for this Competence Centre, I study part-time at the University of Zurich, philosophy and comparative studies of religion. I finished my bachelor studies a couple of months ago, and I'm starting my master part-time right now. Maybe I can also mention that also with Marie-Claire, I was involved in the Sustainability Week movement and in VSN for the past couple of years. Moving to the Competence Centre, which is a salient point of my position tonight. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. It's a project that is kicking off right now. And I would mention before I start to explain what exactly is that the name National Competence Centre for Student Engagement for Sustainable Development, a working name is the name of the project when it kickstarted, but we are planning on finding a new name soon. So just keep it in mind also with the frame of Competence Centre. So the Competence Centre is a new project of the VSN and of the Swiss Student Union, VSS. This project was initiated with the aim of offering a national center structure for students that are interested in sustainability's engagement and want to improve their competencies and their knowledge on it. This idea was the result of students' observation and remarks that more often than not, students that begin to get interested in sustainability need competencies and knowledge to implement their ideas that are mostly, not completely, but mostly not part of the students' curricula. The Competence Centre is therefore on the core really a project that comes from students for students. As I mentioned before, we did kick off this past February 2021, Anusha and I. Anusha Wasman also is the other head in the project lead. And we are really much starting off our journey and building up the center right now at this very moment. On the core, our mission is to enable students at Swiss higher education institutions
to unfold their full potential in their engagement for sustainability. We do really want students to be able to put their idea into practice, which they already do for the most part, and to help them to keep doing this. That's why we focus a lot on the one side on the promotion of capacity building and support, and on the other side we will focus on the field of networking with different actors like Student with Students and other actors of the higher education politic landscape and also civil society. I can mention that more concrete for students. During the next fall we will start offering 3 pilots events. We will offer an event, a course in the area of project management, then a coaching program on the topic area of dialogue with universities, and then we will do pilot a networking format for students. These events will be organized with a ready present support platform at higher education institution. We will seek close collaboration with them. Those platforms are also for supporting students and sustainability at higher education institution. The aim is to instaurate collaboration and to promote the building up of a network of students and platforms that revolve around sustainability. And this is also why I would mention already now that we are always seeking constant dialogue with stakeholders of higher education institutions, and of course also in a very central position, students and students' organization. To conclude on the whole, the main goal of the collaborations and of the Competence Centre is to ensure that students get the best possible support to get actively engaged with sustainability.
Thank you very much. I hope a lot of people liked that quick pitch that you brought from the Center of Competence, and I'm sure we're going to hear much more about this in the future. Maybe a quick explanation for how the panel is put together. We have these 2 students, Marie-Claire and Gaia, and then we have two rectors or people from rectorates that also represent Swiss universities. Swiss universities is the rectors conference, so all the different rectors of the higher education institutions gather under that roof, and we're happy to have the president of Swiss universities here, who is also the rector for the University of Geneva, Yves Flückiger. And I would like, as an introduction, maybe quickly the way that sustainability plays a role. I would now start first with your university, the University of Geneva, on how sustainability plays a role at the University of Geneva.
Thank you very much, Nino. It's a real pleasure for me to be with you this evening. And I'm trying to do a brief review of the action that has been put into place at the University of Geneva. First of all, I think that there are 5 main domains where actions need to be done. First of all, I think we need to develop teaching programs devoted to SDGs, and we did it at the University of Geneva in collaboration with Tsinghua University. In fact, it all started after a meeting in Davos with the president of Tsinghua University. It was in January 2016. And 5 months later, we organized the first joint summer school between our 2 universities. Then we launched a master program with a dual degree and a single master with 1 semester of mobility in the partner university, just to show that when we will, when there is a need and when we will it, we can go very fast in that direction. Maybe something that I would like also to say, that in Switzerland we are fortunate enough to be able to rely on a very efficient education system composed of 3 types of higher education institutions, and I think all of them have a very important role to play. They are in fact complementary, and the universities, as well as the University of Applied Sciences and the University of Teacher Education, play a very important role in education in sustainability. Then I think the second line of action is related to research. I strongly believe that in order to create an education program of high quality, it must be based on top research done in different domains. The teaching programs and the strategy for the SDGs must be based on the most recent scientific knowledge. And in this respect, I regret a little bit that often the expected contribution of universities is limited to the training of scientists and decision makers and the production of mainly technological research. I believe very much that the humanities and social sciences have a very important contribution to make as much as the basic and technical sciences. And the third domain of action where we can act very actively is innovation. I think that the students want to go behind statements. They want to go behind just the words. They want to explore action that we can take together to promote more open innovations. And I think university must invest more strongly in the field of social innovation, because these choices imply societal adaptation that will not be without tension, in fact. The university has, in fact, a living lab for social innovation. And we need also to develop the relation with the city and the link between the academia and the politician, as well as the international organization or the NGOs in the field of SDGs. And maybe on that part of this relation, I would like to give the example of Geneva Science Policy Interface, which is an open platform to connect academia and the international organization in order to understand their challenges they have to face and to bring the expertise from scientific academia in their international organization. And finally, I think that universities should also develop their impact on sustainable finance. They have all a portfolio and they can manage this portfolio in order to engage in a dialogue with companies, which is in fact investor guided by the concept of sustainable development. And I think that in this domain, there is a lot of things to do between Swiss universities, because if we are together in this kind of investment, we can really have an impact on the strategy of companies regarding their investment in sustainability. So I think there are a lot of things to do, but we need to do it together.
Thank you very much, Yves Flückiger. This is a wonderful setup. Don't mind if I actually take up these 5 points specifically later on in these discussions, because they cover the main aspects that we would have liked to discuss today. And I will actually cite you on these. I wrote down the 5 points that you had. So the teaching on sustainability, or specifically the SDGs, the research and the actual research that has to play a role in how universities develop their students, and also the role that they play, that what they do is based on the most current research, that the innovation is very important, the social innovation, and also the living lab aspect of the campus, the link, the third mission of the universities, and as well in the end the sustainable finance. So just as a spoiler for everybody, these will be basically the main 5 topics that we will discuss throughout the meeting today. Next, I would like to have Benoît Frund present himself. Also, maybe quickly, the aspects of University of Lausanne. Of course, there's a certain overlap of the general aspects that a university does between Lausanne and Geneva. Of course, there are a lot of differences. Benoît is also the president of the newly created sustainability network at Swiss universities. And so I would be happy if you could at once explain your role as the Vice-Rector of Sustainability and Campus at the University of Lausanne, and then also your role as president of the Sustainability Network at Swiss universities.
Okay, thank you, Nino. Thank you for your kind invitation, and I'll try to answer your question. First of all, I'm Benoît Frund. As you said, I'm a Vice-Rector for Sustainability and Campus at the University of Lausanne. Actually, I've been Vice-Rector for Sustainability since 2011, so 10 years now. And at the time, I was perhaps the first member of a university board with the clearly the task of sustainability in the title. I think it is sort of specific decision of our rector to be a pioneer in sustainability. So my job is to organize and to work with colleagues in the whole university in the 5 domain that Yves mentioned just before. So my job is to try to make my university more sustainable in the field of teaching, research, on the campus, and also in the contact of with the society. And we made some interesting projects in that field, just to help society, or to work with society in the field of sustainability, and in the social part of that. As said Yves before, the sustainability is not only a question of technology, far away from that. So I don't think I have time to explain all we are doing at UNIL, and you can find it on our website. And I also can answer your question. And I just try to explain what sustainability at Swiss University Network is trying to do. So as you said before, Swiss Universities is the rector association, and the committee, our president is Yves, decided to create a network for sustainability, and it was 1 year ago, I think, something like that. And as you know, we had some trouble to meet each other at the beginning of 2020. So it was only in September 2020 that the network was launched. And the aim of this network is to be a competence center for the rectors on sustainability methods, sustainability strategies, and all around the question about sustainability. Our members are actually specialists and members of boards of the all members of Swiss universities. So it's something like 28, or I don't remember exactly, different institutions. And we made a committee, a Vorstand, and Nino is a member of the committee representing VSS, and we have also representing Annick, who is representing the VSN. And we have members of the different type of institution, and also member of the directions or of the sustainability unit. And well, our role is to be a competence center for Swiss universities, and I think we will discuss some results of our job just before.
Yeah, this is a great launching pad. Actually, we can go into that specifically. Quite recently, there was a letter from you, Mr. Flückiger, to the Confederation, specifically replying to their efforts of the strategy of sustainable development 2030. And maybe can you quickly, briefly summarize? I would like to maybe get into some of these points, which are also many of the points that you've already specifically mentioned. Maybe a bit of context for the people that are listening. So Switzerland has proposed a strategy of sustainable development until 2030, and then invites all types of stakeholders to give their opinion. And Swiss universities is invited to give the opinion for the higher education institutions. This sustainability network could help develop this answer, which then of course is still decided on by the committee and sent out by Yves Flückiger in his role as president. Maybe if you could briefly summarize the points that Swiss universities think might also still need to be developed, because of course the idea of this consultation is that people can bring in also potential improvements or certain aspects where you think something might still need to be done. If I could maybe give the word to Yves for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nino. I think the strategy was well received by the Swiss universities. In fact, I think the main direction of this strategy is correct, and I think it gives a large part of this strategy to Swiss universities, but still there are some points to discuss. One of the points that need to be discussed is the relation between a growth and the sustainable development, which seems to be disconnected. And in fact, there are a lot of connection between the two domains. And that's something that the research has proved in the past, that in fact, if really we want to have a real impact on the climate change, a real impact on sustainability, we need really to have this link between growth and sustainability. And I think that was not too much pointed into this strategy, just like if we were able to continue on the same track in terms of economic growth without, in fact, addressing the real challenges made by the sustainable growth. So I think this was the first point that needed to be put into place, and also the role of research. Again, I think research, as I said before, has a very important role to play. In order not only to address the main questions, the main challenges that we have to address, it means also more relation, more links between the academia and the politicians, but also with international organizations. And I think that this kind of link has to be sustained, has to be developed. And this is why we have this innovative project, just like this Geneva Science Policy Interface, which is quite important in order to bring scientific expertise toward the politician, toward the international organization. And if we think of what happened recently in the COVID situation, I think at the beginning, the politicians were more or less listening to what the scientific expertise has to say. But now we see that more or less again, the economic growth is taking the step towards the sanitary situation. And I think this is the kind of thing that we need to develop very much. And yes, and I think really we need to put a little bit more emphasis on the reduction of the impact on the climate change, on the environment, and this needs to be still developed. So I think we were happy with the strategy, but there are still some points that need to be improved. And the main point that need to be improved is the relation between research and politics. Main point which has to be developed is really the role of each higher education institution toward the sustainability, and also the relation between the city and the society and the academia. That was the main point that need to be improved, I think.
Thank you very much. So maybe just a very quick point. It was interesting for us students to see that Swiss universities really. I invite everybody here to read that statement of Swiss universities, which talks clearly about the need of Switzerland to focus on a durabilité forte, so a strong version of sustainability. Which talks about how we cannot be, as Yves Flückiger said, solely focused on growth and just hope to uncouple economic growth of for example, carbon emissions, and also to actually listen to the science in a certain point, basically saying we have this great science in Switzerland, but the strategy that Switzerland is developing or what they are talking about does not actually specifically listen to what the current science is. And maybe this is the first point quickly when we talk about one of the 5 aspects, the research, and that basically what we do in sustainability should be based on the actual current research. And what is going on and what need there is to do. Maybe from the point of view of Benoît, who also has a specific knowledge in the field, what aspect of the research do you feel is not sufficiently has not sufficiently arrived in society, or maybe also in higher education institutions in the past years?
Perhaps before answering your question, I just wanted to add something. In the strategy of the Federal Council, there is a specific chapter on the role of the higher education institution, and it's quite important because in that text, it's something like 25 or 30 pages. You don't have place enough to cite every domain, but there is a specific chapter on what the Federal Council is waiting for the academic domain. So our answer, our text is written also to show how important is the role of the academic and the higher education institutions in the strategy of in the national strategy of for sustainability. It's quite important to just to say that. And I think as Yves mentioned, there is a lot of knowledge that are now in the that are sorry, I'm tired. There is a lot of knowledge that you can find by the research, for example, on economics, and this decoupling of economic growth and economic and carbon or so on is really well known in the academic field, but it's quite difficult to make the society understand that and to make politics understand that's fact. It is also the case of a lot of studies on social sciences and the role of what we can do as an individual, or what is the role of institutions to make Switzerland more sustainable. And we have the information, we have the knowledge now in the academic institutions, but we need now a lot of work to make to make it understood by the people and by the politics, and perhaps also by our colleagues in the universities, because I'm not sure we always we say in French, nous croyons à ce que nous savons. I'm not sure we always. Can you translate it? I'm sorry.
That there is actually that we actually believe with our own eyes, or
what we know. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. No, please finish.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah. So, but this is a very interesting aspect, and I know that when I've talked with Marie-Claire about this, there is a certain knowledge, a lot of knowledge in the higher education institutions, and then we get back to the first point that Yves Flückiger mentioned, which is the education on sustainability. Marie-Claire, I know that's a topic where you have a quite strong opinion on things that should change. Maybe could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nino. And I think it fits very well what you mentioned, also what Benoît, what you just brought forward, that if we are still teaching with the past concepts, we are teaching the young current generation of today who should be leading today and tomorrow already. Of course, this cannot go right. So we need to already include the models of tomorrow to make sure that we even have a tomorrow to live, right? Especially also when it comes, for example, to the economic models Yves pointed out. And we have been bringing this forward back in 2015 already. There has been students' demands already before on exactly these issues, but yeah, they are still not implemented. But coming back to the educational part, we see that more and more universities, for example, want to now become CO2 neutral. They want to have more sustainable canteens and do quite a lot of efforts. But what I personally miss is the very, very strong efforts in the area of education. A university, for me, in a student perspective, is mainly here to educate me. Of course, I know there are some other aspects as well in regards to research and dialogue, but it's all tied basically what is taught at the university. And while I do really appreciate all the efforts in regards to become a CO2 neutral campus, I think it's absolutely important to focus on the educational aspect, because the impact we can have if all the students are aware of the crisis we are facing today, if the students are all aware of the new concept and then can go out to the administration, to the public sector, stay in academia or wherever, and can then really implement this, what they learned about the different models. I think this is so much more powerful, and it's really also bringing this aspect of the transformation, this transformative long-term changes into reality and into implementation. So I do believe that we have to do way more in regards to the educational aspects, and not only in the field of the environmental sciences, because we already mentioned before that the social sciences are absolutely crucial and important to make this transformation. So my vision would be that, and I mean it's also shared in the demand paper since many years, that we have in all the different subjects a mentioning of sustainability. There is an introduction, a basic, but then also we adapt it to the student, to whatever the student is studying, and that with this we can make sure that the student understands in his or her field of study what sustainability means. I think this is really the way to go, and there are already quite some universities around the world who are working on this very progressively, and I really much looking forward if we can really accelerate this topic. Students have been working, for example, also getting funds for this. Unfortunately, it was rejected by the National Chamber in Politics, but we're very much looking forward working alongside the universities on working on this transformative aspect of education, to really make this transformative aspect going out of the kind of ivory towers of knowledge at the university. I know it's not really accurate today, but let's put it in this frame, that they can really go out and really have this transformative aspect as well in society. Over to you, Nino. And looking forward to what others have to say.
No, thank you very much. I think one of the very interesting aspects, and maybe this is a bit of my input that I've seen when I teach high schoolers and talk to people at my schools is in a lot of subjects, the sustainability aspect has quite seeped in. So when I talk with the biology teachers, with the geography teachers and so on, this topic is really there. And so I would like to maybe focus really specifically on the education regarding the economy. And since we have the rector of the University of Geneva, who's also an expert in labor economics, but of course we can widen this out a bit further. Do you think your colleagues as economics professors in Switzerland are teaching the students the necessary knowledge in the field? You said before, for example, we have to talk about decoupling growth and other aspects. Is that a current reality in our higher education institutions, and not just 1 or 2 classes that teach this, but throughout the classes?
I'm afraid it's not the case still, and there is a lot of work to do. But I must mention the fact that at University of Geneva, they are going to change overall the program of education for economics and management. And it started from the students. The students said 1 or 2 years ago, enough of that kind of models. We need to switch to another kind of approach. And then the students were just heard, and the Faculty of Economic and Management is now developing a center for human rights in business and human rights. And it changed totally, in fact, the way they are educated in economics, because now the goal is not to maximize the profit, but to maximize the value for the society. And it changed totally, in fact, the way you are educating people, young people. And it comes from the students themselves, because they wanted to change the model. And they asked the dean of the faculty, please change the way you are teaching economics. It has changed from the year 40 or 50. You need to go to another model. So it's possible. It's quite possible. And I'm very, very impressed by the fact that this switch has been done at the University of Geneva, but because knowing my colleagues, I will not bet that they will accept it, but they did it because the students were asking it. So I think it's possible. And Doro Bowman-Poli, who is now at the University of Geneva, is really developing that kind of domain, business and human rights. And I think it will change very much the way that we're educating people. But there are a lot of efforts to do in other universities, I think.
Thank you very much. I would like to maybe quickly follow up, because that's something that we students, or especially in students' unions, hear quite often. Oh, the students are needed to drive this change. And so thanks to the students, these things change. And I would like to ask, why? Why do you need the students to actually push for something like this? We've heard before that the researchers might be the experts themselves on it. Why can that not come from the universities themselves? Why does it need always a push from the students? This is an open question I have not been able to answer. I don't know if maybe Benoît or Yves can answer that. Why do we need the students to do this?
But maybe, Benoît, you can say something. But I think it's also due to the fact that the new generation is more aware of the challenge that we need to face, and maybe, I don't know. And we are also educated in a very old model. At the time where I was educated in economics, it was only models for growth and models without emotion, without affective sciences. It was really something that is now totally overcome. And it's sometimes difficult for the teacher just to think in another way, because they will have to renew totally the lecture they are giving, and it means a lot of effort from the teacher themselves. So maybe it needs a little bit of push of the students, but the both have to change. And we need also to have in front of the students people who are aware of that challenges and who are ready also to change the models and the way they are teaching. But I think the participation of students, and I know that with Nino, it was something that we were talking very much together. I mean, the participation of the students is very important. It's important at the level of each university in order to change the way they are teaching, but also at the level of Switzerland, because these kind of things, they need also to have an impact. And Nino was also in the National Assembly, just to try to convince also the politician that something has to change. And I think we need also this participation of students at the level of the federal instance or the Parliament of Switzerland.
Thank you very much. Benoît, yeah?
I think another explanation is also that universities are working with peers, and it's always difficult for us to ask our peers to change their habits or their way to teach, or what they teach. There is a very strong tradition to respect the field of each other, and as a member of the board of the institution, we are not supposed to say our colleagues what they should teach. What we can do is create conditions. What we can suggest, we can give money to develop new projects, new programs. But our job is not to
I think Benoît just froze a bit.
Maybe I just want to add one point.
I will.
Oh, sorry. But I would just like to ask maybe to add one more point. It's related to the fact that for the young...
I'm not that powerful, so.
Sorry, I think you cut out. But so what? Sorry, maybe just as a quick backup that we get that for everybody. I think at least for me, you cut out. So basically, Benoît, you're saying it's also difficult for the rectors to actually impose their will on other professors, and sometimes it's easier to go through the students.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, actually, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yves, you want to add something to this?
Yeah, there's an explanation, but I have also another explanation related to the fact that for the young generation, they need to publish in a review that have a high impact factor. And that's the way that we are judging this young generation. It's very difficult also for them to change from one review to another, because you are always trying to publish in the review which has very well went. And these reviews are not very innovative. In fact, you are just reproducing what was done a very long time ago. And I think we need also to change the way we are looking at the curriculum of young people. And just to say that, for instance, if you publish in an open science review, it's quite important. And if you are publishing in an interdisciplinary review, it's very important, because what counts is not the impact factor of a review, but the impact that it can have on the society. And publishing in sustainable goals or in sustainable question is maybe not very popular in terms of impact factor in the review, but it's quite important for the society. I remember 20 years ago, I launched a new review with a colleague of mine on the review of inequality. And at the beginning, this review was just not known. So all people were publishing that review didn't get any impact factor for their CV. So they were just very hard for us, but also for the young generation interested in equality to publish in that review. So I think there is something that's reproducing itself in the academic field, and that needs to change also. And I think that the university needs to adopt the DORA principle in order to look at in a different way of the contribution of the young generation to the academic world.
Nino,
thank you very much.
Quickly,
of course.
Thank you so much, because I've been working a lot on exactly this for the last 4 years, and I think it goes in the direction of what you mentioned about the social construction we have built around universities. It's a very traditional, very hierarchical, very also patriarchic and old-fashioned dominant structure, which is not letting students and also students with different views penetrate the system. And especially if you're part of the structure, you're not able to speak up, or at least you have the perception that you are not allowed to speak up because you could lose your position or your whatever, right, your reviews or whatever counts in this system. Whereas the students very often are not particularly, I mean, we are also kind of bound into this certain structure, but we have more freedom. But what for me then is the absurd point is that we are all aware, and I think it's not only we here in this call, but I think it's general knowledge that this is the case, right? And we also know that we are facing, in terms of climate, we are facing an existential crisis. We have different international agreements, the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, and so on, where actually Switzerland, alongside all the countries, signed. So we actually have a plan. We know about the urgency because science is telling us this since many, many years before I was part of this planet. But what for me then is the absurd point is that why we are not letting the students sit at the tables? Why are we not letting students be part of it? Why do we have to fight for every single tiny change? It can be in the curriculum, it can be on the campus, it can be about research or whatever. So why do we waste the students' time that they are fighting instead of letting them in, welcoming them, and like really like opening up these doors? Because we do realize, I'm talking now for the older generation, because the older generation realizes that we cannot do it alone and our structure is not allowing us to do this innovation fast enough. So I think we can really have a very good intergenerational collaboration there if we would realize that we all are benefiting if we are opening up these structures. And for me, this is the big question mark. Why are we not doing this? Because at the university, I assume we are all very knowledgeable and also very sensitive towards this topic. So I would really love to maybe today or later on see how we can really make a change towards this, because like this, yeah, I mean, sometimes really a fight one against the others, we are really never getting anywhere, and then we have the crisis coming anyway.
Thank you very much, Marie-Claire. Maybe if I can also, the top question currently asked, please remember to upvote and ask questions on slido.com. The information is sent in the chat by Christina before. And the top question that we have right there goes in the same direction. It actually goes into how can we involve also the students in the co-creation of their own education, that many curricula are still defined top-down. And if something changes, is because students scream that they're unhappy or that they send letters or petitions and stuff like that. And that maybe we can, and I guess that's what Marie-Claire also goes into, create a more co-creative environment on how we can actually improve this together. I don't know if there's specific answers for that from the people from the rectorates. Benoît?
Well, I'm sure we can make the students more part of the decisions. That's actually, I'm sure that you're right. But in my university, students are part of all commissions. When we will have a new rector, and the students are part of the decision to choose the rector. They are also part of the decision when we decide the curricula in the different councils in the faculty at the level of the university. And I'm sure we can do more, but what I also see is that or at least my door is open, and when I receive a project, I'm trying to convince my colleagues to realize it with the students. It's actually working, and I don't think it's only a question of how our institutions are open. It's also a mindset. We have to be able to understand what the students are asking, and the students are also have to understand how the institution is working and how it could change, because if you don't understand how the organization is made, you are not able to change it. But I don't think we are closed, at least in my institution.
This is thank you very much. I think this is a very good point also to bring Gaia back into the conversation. When the question is about maybe sometimes students would have this interest, but maybe they don't know that there are open doors that they're actually walking into, that rectors actually are very happy if they make pressure on certain professors or to change certain curricula, but that for some reason it is blocked, or as Marie-Claire said, people that are actually working in the higher education institutions don't have the same liberty to say that certain things like the students can. Gaia, maybe again back to the competences that you plan on bringing the students with this competence center. How do you think that could be maybe also an advantage to also help everybody involved, that maybe this conversation can work better?
Well, the Competence Center will definitely base on 3 key points: to empower students to engage and put really forward their idea for sustainability. We will support them to develop their own skill on that. And the third pillar of the Competence Center is definitely the networking part. And there we really hope that the Competence Center will open the door for roundtables that involve different sides of the institution. And at the moment we are very much at the beginning of the process, but we are getting in touch with different stakeholder of the higher education institution, from the executive boards to student organization and student themselves, to understand what they actually would really like to see in a networking event. Also from the Competence Center, we are really happy to continue in that way, I would say. And what about the competencies themselves? We will try to cover different competencies the students can get to improve their and continue also their engagement for sustainability. For example, system thinking competencies, or normative competencies, or collaboration, ideation, and critical thinking, which are UNESCO key competencies for sustainable development. So we are really working on that framework for bringing up a valuable offer for students. Does it answer your question, Nino? Or...
Yes, thank you very much. And I maybe have a quick follow-up while we're already talking.
Yeah,
one of the other topics that I would like to now jump into, maybe a bit away from the education, although of course we could talk about this forever, is also the idea of the university as a living lab, something that is also mentioned specifically in the, I think even in bold, in the answer of Yves Flückiger to the Federal Council regarding the role of higher education institutions. And I know I've heard Benoît talk about this quite often, and maybe Gaia, you as well, the student engagement that you plan on promoting also on a student-to-student level. How do you think that could help have the student universities be more of a living lab?
Well, we are aware the students are very interested in getting engaged for sustainability on various level. Some students go do a project about urban gardening. The other ones we will get engaged in conversation with universities and higher education institutions. So the Competence Center will not foster the ideas of the student themselves, but it will try to cover different topic of interest and different competencies that the student can really use and take themselves to bring out the full potential of their engagements ideas. For different engagement, Marie-Claire, maybe I can jump back to you and the VSN for some of the engagement that is being done right now. If you want to add something.
Please, Marie-Claire.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you covered it very well, actually. I don't know, like, but I mean, like in general, the VSN is of course very open for collaboration, because of course we know that we cannot do it alone, and also we do not want to do it alone. I do not think it's it's fair to give all the burden of what is coming to us to the students. So we are very open to work with many different institutions together, but also I think it's very important for us that also maybe in relation to the question before, students have a shorter time frame. For us, I mean, it seemed like 3 years this is like what I'm studying in my bachelor, 2 years or 1.5 years in my master's. So we have a very different time frame, and also when we see that the time frame of when we have to achieve the actions, I mean, now it's 2021, the SDGs need to be reached by 2030. This is a very different time horizon we have to work on. So I think for us, it's also very crucial that when we are working together and when we are seeking collaborations, that our partners are also seeing this urgency and working with us together in this urgent matter, because if we say like, okay, let's schedule this in the agenda, which is coming up in November, and then we have the next meeting in March, and then, I mean, yeah, you cannot really get the students on board with this. But yeah, I think everything was already covered by Gaia.
Thank you very much. Is there something that maybe Benoît or Yves you would like to add to these points that Gaia and Marie-Claire brought up?
Well, I think it's quite important, but it's also a way to change also the way we are preparing the education programs, because I think at the former model of education was really you are going to a room and then you are listening to somebody who is explaining what is sustainability. And I think we need to change also the way the way we are teaching. In fact, there are many things where hands-on education is much more effective than just sitting in a class and listening to somebody who is explaining what is sustainability. So that's something we really used in our master program with the Tsinghua University, is really to have a lot of hours in the week where the students, they are sitting, in fact, just to make some innovation together and bringing their capacity from the teacher just to try to develop their own ideas. So I think it changed very much, because in 10 years ago, maybe we are thinking that the students have to learn first, and then after the age of 30 or 35, they can make some contribution to some innovation. But now things have changed. People are really able to bring their innovation, their ideas for innovation labs at the age of 20, because they are just knowing what has to be done, and then you just need the support for some people just to develop their ideas. So I think this is very, very important also in the way we are looking at the campus, like innovative labs.
Thank you very much. Since we don't have that much time, yeah, Marie-Claire, do you want to add something?
No, it was me, Nino. I just wanted to add that I do agree with Yves Flückiger. The students do have a lot of initiative and do have a lot of also potential to get in touch with the institution, to create this dialogue and create innovation also with each other. One thing that I just wanted to mention to that is that students do study, take a lot of the time to study as well, and to maybe to work to sustain themselves on the side. So I think that we also want to foster with the Competence Centre, like to foster a place where students can come and find support in developing their skills and their ideas, so that they can have some capacity to work really on this innovation, on this dialogue. And they can have some more time to do that. Exactly. I also want to quickly to mention that we do work in collaboration with U-Change, which does plays a very important role in financially sustaining students' initiatives, which is also a very important part in the innovation part of the students' engagement for sustainability. Yes, that was it.
Thank you very much. So that the students bring the motivation, but somehow somebody should also bring the money that this work can be done. I think this is something that also longer term should probably be discussed once maybe U-Change doesn't exist anymore. Without going too much into that, I think one thing that is quite interesting, and one thing that also has been asked by the participants is, should the higher education institutions focus more also on how to communicate scientific knowledge and take a more political standpoint and come out? I mean, according to me, this strategy for sustainable development was a pretty clear statement. But is this also something that then maybe Swiss universities should focus on and talk about louder? And then the follow-up question that comes with that is that even possible if you have so much funding from the state, that if you attack the state and say, hey, you're not doing sustainability correctly, could that also be a problem for the universities and higher education institutions?
I think there is two aspects in your question, Nino. The first one is the autonomy of universities. And I think looking at what's going on right now, I'm a little bit afraid that this autonomy is going down. There are more and more intervention of politicians to make some comments on what we are doing in terms of research, of the utility of some education programs. And just by looking also in Switzerland, I'm afraid that we are not going in the right direction. And it's quite important just to maintain this autonomy of researcher, because if you are losing that, we are losing also the capacity and our power to change the world. So this is something which is quite important. And the second point you mentioned, Nino, is the scientific communication. I think this is more and more important. If you are talking about the relation between society and the universities, we need also to communicate correctly with these politicians. And I'm afraid that it was not always the case. And if you are looking again at the last year, the intervention of experts in terms of the COVID, it was not always, done in the right way. So I think we need to develop that kind of capacity, how to communicate science, how to explain why science is not always bringing a rapid and fast answer to the question that we need to face. And that was something that the population didn't understand very well, because we were just expecting that we have the COVID, then bring us the answer to that pandemic. So I think it's a lot of things we need to do, and that will be something that we want to think about at the level of Swiss University. How can we develop the scientific communication?
Thank you very much. I'll leave it at that for now, that this is something very important, and that the higher education institutions have a big role to play and actually fight for their autonomy to be able to say what they think. And I guess also that students through their higher education institutions actually have a potential to be heard quite strongly. So if they influence their higher education institutions, those will then influence Switzerland strongly, because they have an important role in Switzerland. One of the important things about Switzerland, oh, nice segue, is finance. And one of the finance aspects was brought up by Yves Flückiger in his interest before, specifically on sustainable finance and potentially also divestment. And maybe I would like, if I am not mistaken, I think UNIL there has a bit of a success story they can bring forward, also with the investment of the pension funds. Benoît, not yet?
No. We actually did divesting of our assets, but it's not the pension fund.
Okay, so, sorry.
So it's much less than the pension fund. No, our pension funds is administrated by the state. So we have no we are only one of different institutions, and we can ask the administrator to change their way to they invest our money, but we are not in charge of that money. But we actually divest the money that the rectorate of the universities charge have the responsibility, and our aim was to discuss with the bank and just to show that it is possible to divest. And actually, it was a hard work, and we still have a lot of way to do, because now it's divested from the coal, but not from all the fossil assets. So we still have a job to do, but we were able to show that it is possible to divest, and we convinced the bank to do so not only for our money but for all the institutional portfolios that the bank is in charge of. So just to have an idea, it's 70 times larger than our only portfolio. So that's the success story. But I have to say that we were able to do that. We have a lot of work to do now, and our pension fund is not divested. But I think we have a job to do as administrators, but also as researchers, because people that are making research on finance and bank have to help the people who are working in the financial institutions to find solutions. And there are solutions, but actually it's not so easy to do that. But I think we as you probably know, last week we had a roundtable. We had organized by the ETH, and we saw that Michael Engartner was part of the roundtable, and he said that that the ETH domain will work on that. So it's a bit changing now, but I had to fight for 5 years to have these results. So it's something difficult.
But that's why I thought, so Michael Hengartner, for those that don't know, president of the ETH board, former president and predecessor of Yves Flückiger at Swiss universities. And so it's quite interesting when Yves Flückiger mentioned this in his opening statement, that maybe at the level of Swiss universities, if the higher education institutions work together, they could put on pressure on these banks and see to have this multiplication effect that Benoît talked about, that actually their money is one part, but they had 70 times the financial effect on divestment on what they did. Do you think that could be really something like a success story that could be reproduced in other places as well? And maybe that Swiss universities could also take this as one of their fights in the next time?
I really hope so, Nino, and I think, and thank you very much, Benoît, for what you did at the University of Lausanne. We are trying to do the same thing in Geneva, first investing in first in class societies and companies. That's quite good, because you are disinvesting into other companies which are not sustainable. But we need also to participate to the shareholder assembly, and this is quite important, because now we have a mandate with ethos, with a company trying to change the way that the Swiss companies are managed. And they can intervene in that assembly in order to change the way they are paying the people at the level of the companies. And I think there we can have also a huge power, in fact, if we are doing that together. So that's something that I would like to bring at the level of Swiss universities, but also at the level of League of European Research University, which is a league of 23 of the best universities in Europe, with Cambridge, Oxford, the usual suspects, but also with University of Zurich and University of Geneva. And I brought that question during the last session we had at the Leroux level. And for my I was very happy to see that the people say, okay, that's a good idea. Let's try to see what you can do together at that portfolio management, and trying to be all together to change also the way that the companies are managing their domain, their investment, and their employees also. So we can do a lot of things together.
Thank you very much. And so maybe this will be a nice transition into the final aspect of, we titled this discussion, and of course it's a very open discussion in these many fields, and we've covered now the 5 fields that were mentioned previously. What we would then talk about is, well, how can I, as a student, help the university become more of a leader in sustainability? And we've heard that there is a certain need for a push, and we heard that there's a certain need for student engagement to bring these topics forward, and also to help, be it by convincing other professors or by putting the necessary pressure on the decision makers, that maybe these decision makers that would like to change certain things also have the support and can say, hey, look, the students are actually wanting this. One of the questions that is being asked on the Slido is the other way around. What sort of support do students need to get more actively involved with sustainability? And not just actively involved, but also the aspect that it can be done quite quickly, because we have a short-term life of students, as Marie-Claire said before, but these long-term aspects of sustainability, or these long and slow processes in universities, which many of us that are now at university will actually not have seen until when it has changed, whereas people in the university stay for a long time. So maybe the question to Marie-Claire or to Gaia, what do you think students need so that they can actually help in this, and what as concrete as possible should be? Maybe Marie-Claire, if it works. Or else Gaia, maybe can you bring up something that maybe also from your personal experience was something that was important?
I was just reading the impact report of the Sustainability Week Switzerland lately, and it was very interesting because many interviews were done with students that did engage actively in this case for the movement of the Sustainability Week Switzerland, the Sustainability Weeks. And one thing that when the question came of what could bring the movement further, or what could actually help students engaging more, one of the key points was dialogue and networking, which is also very, very important, I think, between students, from students. I did hear, I did read in this document as well that student really wants to connect more. They kind of feel alone when they have to start something off, especially if it's, as I mentioned, not part of their curriculum. It's a new thing, they need new competencies, and to do that they want to connect. They want to connect to organize together. They want to connect to learn from other students what they can do. So I think this is, I mentioned before that time and money can help, but I would say on this aspect that discussion, also national network do play a big role on many levels, but now especially between students are very important.
Thank you very much, Gaia. So this network, the same thing that Swiss Universities has been talking about, the Competence Centre of the different experts in sustainability working together, headed by Benoît and put in place by Yves Flückiger, actually would also be important to have this on a student level and to have this work. Of course, then the question is, who is responsible for national aspects working, and to ensure that these national structures are done, because it's probably quite easier also to focus on things happening on their own campus. Maybe this is a question to the two people involved, heavily involved in the decision-making processes in higher education institutions. How do we convince local universities or local people of the importance of national activities, such as, for example, this competence center for development and national networking?
I think first of all, it's a dialogue at the level of each university, but also at the level of each university and the other ones. And I must say that sometimes the communication between each direction of each university and the Swiss university is not very optimal. So we need really to be more in touch together and trying to create this kind of movements at the level of Swiss universities. So I think there are many things that we can do at the level of Swiss universities in terms of the networking. And it's not only a networking at the level of Switzerland, but also a networking at the level of other universities. And maybe you know that the initiative of this University Global Compact, which has been created some 2 years ago. And I think I believe very much in the fact that when other very big universities around the world, they are engaging into sustainability, I think they create also a movement that will be followed by other ones. So I strongly believe also in terms of the networking, international networking. And finally, maybe another aspect that we didn't talk about is a space. I think the students need some space for developing their ideas. And right now, maybe it's due to the fact that the campus is done like all the campus where we were just going there for teaching and some research. But we need also to reinvent the level of the campus, how we can organize the campus just to give the space for the students to develop their own ideas. And I think that's really the way to create fab labs or innovation labs, where the students can just go there, meeting other people from other disciplines and trying to develop their own ideas. And in this aspect, we have seen, for instance, in Sigua University, they are very good to give space for students to develop their ideas, and something that needs to be done also at the level of Swiss universities. So I think we lost Nino, maybe.
You didn't lose me. I just muted myself so I wouldn't make any noises while you were talking. Sorry. So the last question that I would like to ask that was posted on Slido was, we asked before, what do the students need from the higher education institutions? Maybe a quick question to Benoît. What are the higher education institutions offering to the students so that they can get involved more in sustainability?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes, of course. So what are the higher education institutions doing so that it's easier for the students to get involved in sustainability?
What they should do, as Yves said, they should give space, not only in terms of geographical space, but also in time, because it's really important to develop, to have time to develop projects. My experience is that there is a lot of projects that doesn't need don't need much money. The problem is usually not money, but time and competences. And I think the more what is important is that there are people in the university that are collaborators, that are working for the university, and that are able to listen to the students and to help them develop their project, and just to be able to also to explain what are the experiences of the former students, and what are the experiences that were interesting, what are the experiences that were uninteresting. That's really important to transmit the what we were able to learn together. And I think it's something missing now. And I think there is a last thing that students have to know. The people from the university are not able to solve all the problems, and they don't have all your ideas. So don't assume, ask. And my experience is that when we are asked, we are able to answer something. And I heard a lot of cases where students thought that it was not possible to do so and so, and the reality was that no one asked, and when a student asked, we were able to find a solution. No, it seems to be a witz. It seems to be a joke, but it's really the case.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very good lesson for everybody listening. Since it's 7:30, I would like to have like one quick last round and hear from everybody. The title of this discussion was what can I do as a student to help make the higher education institutions become a leader in sustainability. And so I would like to know from our 4 panelists, what will you personally do to help the higher education institutions become leaders in the field of sustainability? So really not you as like as a person, like really what will your focus be on in the next year? If I can, maybe I'll start with Gaia.
Yes, of course. May I add something before I answer exactly to this question, Nino, just to close up? I just wanted to reiterate so that the Competence Centre really want to make sure that the offered benefits students. And so I just wanted to like stress once more time that we do work with student organization, and we do collaborate with higher education institution in order to ensure that students get the best support they can get. I find it just nice to say one more time, since we are like a new project starting off now, and I find it not interesting to finish on that note. About what I do personally for sustainability, well, I co-lead the Competence Centre for student engagement for sustainable development, really in order to support students to engage effectively with sustainability, other higher education institutions during their studies, and hopefully, there's a personal note, also in the personal life and in civil society.
Thank you very much. Benoît, same question to you. What will you do, or what will your focus be to help make the students, the higher education institutions, leaders in sustainability?
I will continue my job on networking, because as we discussed the whole night, we have to be together to change the things, to change the situation, and I'm quite sure that higher education institutions have a very special role in changing society, and I'm quite sure that we have to be to know what role we have. We have to play this role, and it's really important to know that we don't know exactly what will what a more sustainable world will be, but we exactly know what in what it is not sustainable. So our role is to be to critique the actual world, and just to help changing it.
Thank you very, very much. Yves Flückiger, same question to you.
I will try to act at 2 levels. The first one, I am right now the rector of the University of Geneva. I have also the chance to be president of Swiss University, and I'm also on the board of the director of the LEO, this League of Open Research Universities. So I have this position where you can change things. And if I'm not doing it, it will be a mistake of me. It will be, I'm really looking forward to make things changing at the level of the three level, at the level of University of Geneva, at the level of Swiss universities, and at the level of Leo also. So I would like to use my position just to make things change. And the other one, the other domain where I would like to do something is really that I think that university can develop themselves by looking at the domain where nobody is doing something right now, and trying to be an example in the field of higher education institutions. And there are many fields where you can, in the 17 development goals, there are many ways you can be innovative and trying to find a way that has been not used by other universities, just to be something different from other universities. And right now at the University of Geneva, I'm very much looking forward to make an analysis of wage inequalities inside our institution, just to try to find out there are discrimination that we need to suppress. And this is something also that we need to work on. And the level of universities, also there are a lot of inequalities in terms of students, and what can we do to reduce this inequality and this poverty at the level of students' community. So this is the kind of thing that we would like to do.
Thank you very much. I think my role as a moderator, as a slightly journalistic role, wouldn't be done. You said you want to change. I don't think I've heard you say what you would like to change.
I mean, I would like to change the policy of these three institutions: University of Geneva, Swiss universities, and the Leo, and trying to have an impact on the direction where these organizations are going to develop in the coming years. So I've still 2 more years there, and I need to change something.
Yeah, something, but what? Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, change things. It's really to integrate the sustainability into the strategy of each university, of each organization, and also trying to make quite strict analysis of the 17 development goals, and to find out where we did do nothing right now. So we can change things, and that will be my role, in fact.
Thank you very much. Sorry for insisting.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much.
I was happy to have something like that. And finally, to end up, I would like to give the word to Marie-Claire, and have you end up with the final word before we go back to the organizers.
Thanks, Nino. And sorry, I was cutting out the last 10 minutes because of the very bad internet here. But just quickly, I think the question is what I'm going to do, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to keep holding decision makers accountable. They are ultimately deciding of what I am studying, how my career looks like, and how my future looks like. So I hold them accountable of what they have been promising, of what the research is saying, and what decisions are already taken. For example, the Sustainable Development Goals or the Paris Agreement. Because if we would implement this and if we have no more empty promises, we wouldn't probably be here today at this meeting, or we will discuss something else at this meeting. And also what I'm going to continue to do is supporting young people, and especially also female leaders, to be able to sit in decision-making positions, because ultimately they are 50% of the world's population are young people, 50% are women, and then we have no women and no young person in decision-making. I mean, this can never ever work. So I myself had the privilege of being in certain decision-making mandates already, and I'm going to continue support all the young people, and especially female leader and other marginalized groups to be able to sit there where they belong to sit. And you're muted, Nino.
Sorry, I didn't want to talk over you with these very nice last words with Marie-Claire. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everybody for being here. I think we have a final poll that Muguette would like to do. I would like to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to this discussion. This discussion will also be online. We will put this online since we've recorded it. So if there are certain things that you've heard today and you would like to listen to again, you'll be able to find them. I would now like to give the word to Muguette.
Thank you, Nino. And from Christina and my side as well, thank you so much to the panelists, not only for being here and for sharing all of your incredible knowledge, but also for all of the things that you do outside of this panel. It's really inspirational, and I think it's good for us all to remember that we are all working towards this together. Nino as well, thank you so much for really following up all of the important things and for coming with all of your knowledge. It's been such a relief to work with you. To finish off quickly, I'll put the poll up. And just as a reminder that, hold on, I can't do two things at once for some reason. There we go. I'll have that launched while I quickly finish talking. So remember that this event is part of a bigger movement. First of all, it's part of the Sustainability Week. Remember that there are 3 Sustainability Weeks that haven't happened yet. We have Geneva, Basel, and Rapperswil coming up. So if you're interested, be sure to check that out. In regards to HEIP events, unfortunately, the ETH event, the workshop was postponed until the 15th of April if you're interested. Otherwise, we also have the Sustainable University Day coming up, where Benoît Frund will be appearing again with our good friend Eloise Galam. That'll also be very interesting. And if you want to do or make or start any of your own projects, please be sure to get in touch with SWS, be sure to get in touch with VSN, be sure to get in touch with the Competence Centre. We are here to help, and we are so excited to hear about all of the exciting things that you want to do. From myself and Christina, thank you all very much for coming. Once you finish the poll, you're more than welcome to leave. See you in the future.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
À bientôt, Benoît.
See you soon. À bientôt, Yves.
Bientôt.